Hey guys, so it's will be your last video unit of the semester. Okay, it's about graph interpretation, and you need this document here. So when you go to my Dropbox, you will see this, and then unit E. If you click unit E, it's just this document right here. Okay, so we're going to use this document to learn about designing graphs or interpreting graphs, because that's really important skill you need to learn, you need to understand in grade 9. Okay, so yeah, let's export it to GoodNotes and let's get started. Okay, so basically about graphing, lots of you have already know this, but in case you don't know and you're not sure about how to graph what a trend line is or whatever, let's learn about it in this unit or lesson. Okay, so basically, first of all, I give you some data already. So as the temperature, so see, when the temperature is 0 degrees, the volume of the glacier, so how large the glacier is 100. Okay, large piece of ice. And when as the temperature increases until 24, the glacier volume actually decreases, which makes sense because as the temperature goes up, you have basically the glacier volume decreasing because it's melting, right? Because it's melting. And okay, I thought my pin's not working. Okay, so basically we can call temperature the manipulated variable. Why? Because this is always x, this is always y. On the left side of the chart is always x, on the right side of the chart is always y. Okay, so manipulated variable is always x. That's why we call it Max and Ruby. Okay, we learned it at the beginning at the beginning of the year. So y variables is called responding variables. Okay, so I want you to draw a trend line because of this. So normally you would say, oh, this is 0 degree, 100, 2 degree, whatever. But you don't have to, because I want you to draw a trend line. I just want you to interpret as x increase, how does y go, okay? As our x increase from left to right, our x value always increase from left to right, okay? So as our x value increase from left to right, or as temperature increases, our glacier, which is the y, will increase or decrease. It will decrease. So as x increases, y will actually decrease. So that's why we say from left to right, the graph is actually going down like this. Okay, if you write something like that, you will basically get full mark because I only ask you to draw a trend line. So the meaning of the graph would be as temperature as temperature increases, it's always as x increase, what does y do? Okay, as temperature increases, volume or glacier volume decreases. So that's why the trend line decreases. Okay, so and practice, which graph correctly represent what we learned in class? So the riverbed sediment height, which is the y-axis, riverbed sediment height. If you actually learn about Miss Asia's class about erosion really well, you will know that with the faster the water flows, so faster water flows will actually create more erosion. Okay, and the sediment would actually be lower in height. So the sediment height would actually be lower because more erosion happening, okay? More faster water is carrying all the sand and dirt away from the riverbed. So the faster the water, the sediment height will actually decrease. Okay, according to that, so from left to right, our river flow speed is actually increasing. So what happens to our y then? This graph is saying as this graph, I'm just going to change the color here. So this graph is telling us as flow speed increase, sediment height is decreasing, which actually is similar to what we talked about, which is actually the same as what we talked about. As river flow speed increase, more erosion's happening, more sediment, less sediment height because dirt and sands are carried away. Okay, so this graph is saying as river flow speed increase, river sediment height is decreasing, which is not actually true. So which one is the correct one? This one is the correct one, the first one. So this one's correct. Okay, so second question, let's examine the graph here. The x-axis is not flow speed now, it's time. So as time goes by, as time increases, river sediment height is increasing. So that means descent, there's piling up, okay? According to the graph, is the river flowing slower or faster? So when it's flowing faster, it will decrease in height because more erosion is happening. When it's faster, means more erosion. When it's slower, it means less erosion. That means the water speed is actually slowing down, okay? So that means the height of sediments actually increases because the sand has time to actually settle down and pile up, okay? So here, if it's more erosion, that means the sediment height is decreasing because it's wear away. Sorry, sediment height decreases. Okay, so if that's the case, this graph represents as time goes by, my sediment height increases. So it's this scenario right here, okay? So that means that the water is flowing slower as time goes by. So that's what I call interpreting graphs. And so in the PAT exam, half of the questions, more than half of the questions will be graphing questions, okay? So sketch a graph that correctly represents the relationship between what temperature change and sea level. Okay, let's just manipulate this relationship a little bit, okay? So usually temperature time, that will be the manipulated variable because as temperature change, what will happen to sea level, okay? So the manipulated variable would be temperature and the responding variable would be sea level. All right, so as temperature increase, what happens to sea level? Ask yourself, as temperature increases, sea level will actually rise or drop, okay? Normally, as the global warming happening, sea level will actually rise. We all know that, okay? So that means if we set up a graph and the x-axis is temperature and the y-axis is sea level, so as temperature increases from left to right, sea level will actually slowly rise. So that's the general trend line that I'm going to ask you to draw, okay? So this graph right here, the following graph shows a snow melt and snowfall amount. Okay, so that's year one, that's how much snow is melting. How much snow is melting each year. And here is how much snow is falling each year, okay? So, draw a graph representing the data. So for snow melt, I want you to represent it by a solid line. For snowfall, I'm going to let you represent it by a dotted line here. Okay, so the first one, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So you see the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so it's basically steadily increasing snow melt. Okay, and snowfall, however, is increasing too. Year 1, this is time, year, and this is amount, okay? And the solid line represents snow melt, the dotted line represents snowfall. So snowfall, however, is increasing too, okay? It's increasing too, but which one is increasing faster? More snow is falling or more snow is melting? So this is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. This is 1, 4, 7, 10, 13. So which one is faster? Snow falling is faster. So that means snow falling is a steeper line. It's increasing faster, right? Okay. So that means more snow is falling, more snow falling than melting. Then is the snow being accumulated or wear away? It's actually accumulating. Why? Because more snow is falling and like this, the melting speed is very, very slow for the snow to disappear. So the snow keep piling up, okay? So is the glacier retreating or advancing? Retreating means it's melting faster. Advancing means is accumulating faster. That means it's accumulating, okay? So that's how you interpret graphs. It's a really, really important skill you need to learn in science in grade 9, okay? It's a really important skill, really, really important. So please, there's a reason why I teach at the last unit, okay? Because I want to build a transition between grade 8 and grade 9 for you, please. And yeah, so that's the graphing assignment. And for more of the practices, so for example, these, I'm going to just give you another example here, okay? So let's say, is the riverside getting worse, more polluted or more cleaner? So we learned about, the last video, we learned about bioindicator species, midge larvae and stonefly. So let's talk about it. Stonefly, midge larvae, they are actually, so stonefly is actually a good indicator species, so group 1. That indicates good in water quality, okay? So do you see the stonefly is actually increasing in population? That means this is a good side, good water quality, okay? Because the vulnerable species can live inside. That means the water is really good. Okay, so how about here? The stonefly group 1 is actually decreasing here. That means the water is getting more polluted, and midge larvae can survive in more polluted environments. So that means this water is polluted. Okay, so like graphs like this, like as long as you know the relationship between as time goes by or as the x-axis change, how does y respond to it, so you can interpret the graph really nicely. Okay, so yeah, these one I think you already know that. Yeah, okay, so that's it for the graphing part of the lesson. So I will give you some homework for sure. It will be on Dropbox, okay? So good luck.